Hey guys, into the end here. Let's jump right into another draft. This is the second draft of the year 2018. The first draft went quite well. We went 7-1 with a kind of a mediocre deck. Let's see if we can draft a more interesting, more exciting deck this time around. Ooh, that is a very neat card. I think just on its own, a 6 power, 6/6 relic weapon is really good, although this one kind of shrinks as you use it, so if you don't have a way to replenish it, it will probably just last 2 uses, and it gets weaker and weaker. So it's actually a lot worse than just a, for limited anyway, for draft, it's worse than just a straight up 6/6 weapon, because, there's not a lot of way to replenish the armor unless you are in green, so that kind of pushes us down a specific direction. But the Whirling Duel is amazing. There might even be some consideration that the Whirling Duel might be a better card, but just because really this is 2 uses, whereas this is a very good third turn play. But we're probably gonna pick the legendary over everything else. For the same reason I've stated many times before, you don't get a lot of opportunities to play with really cool and neat cards like this. So whenever I have the chance to, I try to make it work. I don't think this card is very good in limited, which limited means draft. It's a weird magic term that I've used for 20 years, so it's hard to change my bad habits. But this is not a very good card in draft. This card is fine, but not super amazing. This card is very, very good. So I think these two cards are very good on the top row here. So let's keep looking. I'm a pretty big fan of the Heroic Bravo. You can often play this for 5 power, and 5 power, 4/4 Overwhelm that deals 2 damage when it enters the play is really strong. So I like this card quite a bit. If you can get a whole bunch of Yeti Wind Flyers, this card's fantastic. If you can get a bunch of Valkyries, this is fine. And this is also a very good game ender if you're in big time Sentinel decks, which are also a very strong archetype in the current format. I think some of the strongest archetypes are Justice and any other color, just full of flying units. That is really strong. And then you can go really big with Sentinels in time. That's also quite good. Yep, let's just go ahead and pick up the Molten Fist here. Incidentally, I want another one of these for constructed, so I crafted one just to play around with it, but I think having 2 would be better in my deck. Nightshade is a pretty strong beater. When you have power, it's going to be a 4/3 for 2 power. That's pretty ridiculous. But even the 2 power 3/2 is already pretty decent. The curse that it plays onto your opponent isn't so good on its own, but it does trigger a lot of other cards that require your opponent to be cursed. So there's some synergies there, but I'm not sure how amazing it is if you don't have any synergies with it. Let's take a look. Reinvigorate is super good, a very good combat trick. Well, it's often going to be a removal spell, because when you exhaust all your units to attack, or you attack with your largest units, you can either use this as a trick to kill your opponent's blocker, or you wait for him to attack you, and then you can block with your largest unit. So it's very often just a removal spell. A very good one. You can have some kind of an aggressive deck with a bunch of Nightfall units with this, attacking for 4 damage on turn 4, which is not too bad. Spirit Blade Stalker is fantastic. I love this card. Very, very strong. 4 power 2/4 blocks quite well, and then giving your best unit +1/+1 in lifesteal often makes the racing impossible for your opponent. I think in raw power level, I'm definitely going to be looking at either the Nightshade, the Spirit Blade Stalker, or the Reinvigorate. So none of these are in red, unfortunately. I don't like any of the red cards here, and we're not married to the first pick. So I guess the question is, out of these 3 cards, which one is on its own the most powerful? I'm going to look at one of these 2-drops here, because I like my curve to be low, and this is, after all, a 4-drop, and it's also a common, so I think there's going to be opportunities to pick up more of these later on in this pack, and also the 4th pack. Between these 2 cards, I'm honestly more interested in the Reinvigorate, because this card, regardless of how good it is, your opponent can block it with any random stranger, right? It's 2 for 3/2 is kind of like that Argentport Soldier, 2 to cast 3/2. It's not relevant until you activate its abilities, and that's quite a bit later, so it's pretty conditional. This card itself also doesn't trigger Nightfall, so there's no shenanigans with the Nightfall synergies. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up this Reinvigorate. This card has been really impressive to me. Not to mention, giving your largest unit Endurance is on its own already pretty good. It will also surprise your opponent when they stun your units. This drone is pretty good. 4 power 1/1 is nothing to write home about, but the fact is when you have this in play, your opponent's not going to want to attack you because it lets you kill one of their opponents units. If you have ways of recurring it using Sleeping Drought or Dark Return, or if you have a way to sack it for some kind of a benefit like Devour or Combust, then you have a lot of card advantage. So I like this card quite a bit. I also like the Cave Diver, 2 power 2/2. 2-drops are always welcome. This one has 2 relevant abilities, so I think this is quite good. I'm also a really big fan of Nocturnal Creeper. This pack is very good. I think all 3 of these top cards here are good. Varus Intervention is fine, but I think not as much as I like the other 3 cards on top. I think I'll pick one of these 3 cards over the rest of the pack here. I'm a really big fan of Devious Drone, actually. Removal spells, removal is king. I've said this many times before, and this is not a hard removal because you do have to kill it, but killing a 1/1 doesn't seem that difficult. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. I know that we've picked 3 different factions, but I think that's fine. Generally speaking, you just want to pick the most powerful cards in the first 3 or 4 or 5 picks until you see a very clear signal, and then you can just jump into those colors. I was really impressed with this card when I drafted last time. It did a lot of work. I'm not a big fan of this. It's not really card advantage. You have to discard something to give Nightfall, and then your opponent also draws a card off of Nightfall. So you're actually at a card disadvantage when you use this card. And just a vanilla 6 power 5/5 is not that great. It is a dinosaur though. A 4 power 2/4 Deadly is pretty good, and I have a pretty strong feeling that if you play Shadow, you're going to be able to activate the Gunslinger ally. So this is not too bad, not amazing. None of these time cards are amazing. This blue card's bad. So I guess that leaves us with the weapon, which I like quite a bit. It also works with units that wants to die. That also works with Powder Cake Rider, by the way. These 2 cards work really well together. You kill their biggest unit, this becomes a 7/4 Overwhelm. This grows out bigger. A lot of synergies there. I think I like the synergies more than the 1/3 Lifesteal here, which is otherwise a perfectly fine card on its own. I am not sure which one of these cards are better. I'm going to pick the Headsman's Axe. The reason for that is because this grows with every unit, but this specifically needs a Grenadin. And I don't know how many more Grenadins I'm going to pick up. And because you don't always expect to draw this into this. Whereas this can also be put onto an unblockable unit in black, Shadow, or a flying unit. And that really ends games very quickly. Whereas a 7/4 Overwhelm still dies to any 4 attack blocker. So let's just go ahead and pick this one up instead. A 4 power 3/4. It's an excellent blocker. Even if it can't attack, it's still pretty decent. Varus Intervention, I have no Unseens, right? And I have no Infiltrate units that care about unblockable. So really, the most useful mode right now is -1 health to a unit. Not what I'm after. I like the trick. So, there's a black card, a green card, a time card, a red card, and a blue card. There's one of every color, so there's no clear signs as to which one is not open. Although I have to say, between these cards here, green seems to be open because both the green cards are definitely playable. All 3 of the time cards are, I guess this one's playable too. But both of these are playable, although the Time Worn Sentinel is actually pretty decent. So a decent time card, some decent justice cards, and this is definitely playable Fire. And this is definitely playable Primal. So I guess Shadow is the one with the worst card, which tells me that Shadow might be cut. So we should jump into one of these colors that appears to be more open, either time or justice. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this Valkyrie Bodyguard. I kind of like this 3/4 flying blocker. Our curve is looking pretty high though. So here we have red, green, time, black, blue, one of every faction. No clear signals again. This is a pretty good primal card. This is not a good time card, green card though. I'm gonna. I like this card quite a bit. Their attachments are really relevant. There's a lot of attachments and weapons in the new set. Then I'll end up with 2 green, 2 red, and 2 black cards. Or I can go for the maimed Watchwing. And that combos with the Valkyrie here, giving it a flying. I can attack. This one can't block and this one can't attack. Combo! We're not going to pick the green card. This is not good. I mean, it's fine. It's not amazing. We're not going to pick the time card because this is definitely not a card good enough to be to jump into another color. So we're going to decide on one of the top 3 cards. We're not going to jump into blue for this thing. So one of these 2 cards. If we pick this, it's looking more and more likely that we're not going to play with our Molten Fist, which is kind of unfortunate. Molten Fist, if I can pick up a bunch of Valkyries that give armor, is super good. It could be game ending. I think for that reason, let's go ahead and pick the Yeti. The Yeti is actually better than the Watchwing on its own, I believe, because both of its abilities are pretty good. Whereas this one just has a drawback. so this card is actually better than that in a vacuum. And I really want to see if I can play Stone Scar. Actually, no, I really want to see if I can play Recano and find a bunch of things that give me armor and mix this into a basically unstoppable weapon. I think that'd be pretty cool. That'd be a really neat deck to have. Yeah, so here black is cut. As we have guessed it, black is somewhat cut. This is not a super good card in black. I think we can safely hide the Headsman's Axe because it's double shadow, but we can still potentially splash the Devious Drone here. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up this Grenadine here. The 3 power 3/1 is an okay blocker, but the possibility of accelerating by +3 is pretty enticing. I think this trick is too expensive, and because it only gives you +2 on the health, it's only really good on things that are not going to get blocked, so you can do a lot of damage, or things that have quick draw, and we don't have any of those at the moment. And there are not a lot of quick draw units in green, so we'll have to draw them in red at some point. I think this and this is also a conditional card. It only works if you have a unit, and only if your unit happens to be at the right size to benefit from this spell. Because if you attack your 1/1 into your opponent's 5/5, for example, and you trade your 1/1 and the Hoof Slash for their 5/5, you just lost a card. That's a card disadvantage. So the best is when you use this on a unit where you kill theirs and yours don't die, but that's kind of conditional. Let's go ahead and grab the Tumblebang here. Wow, that's a really late Sentinel. This is a good card. Blue is super open, black is super cut, green is now also super cut. That's alarming. But these cards aren't amazing enough for us to get out of green and jump into blue, for example. Like, this is fine, but I don't know if I want to jump into blue for it. I think I'll just play Caleb's Intervention here. It's a very versatile card. Ooh, I really like Cryptic Edgings. I think this is one of the sleepers of the set. The games always go very long, and this card just draws you so many free cards by scouting your sigils to the bottom. Blue is so open, but I think this is a perfectly playable red 2-drop. I'm pretty happy picking up more red cards, even if red and shadow don't work out for us. Having mostly fire cards into the second pack just keeps us open to anything we open, so I think that's good, but red is cut here. That's really unfortunate. Pick up this Yeti. Unblockable Agent with a Headsman's Axe is actually not bad. Better than this thing. But blue is so open, jeez. Oh jeez, and we open a really good blue card. Let's reevaluate. Alright, so the best card, clearly Torgoth by a mile here. Zenith Fanatic is not something we want. We don't really want Life Force. Only one pack granting Life Force cards is not a mechanic worth investing into. Zenith Initiation is fine, but Time was medium open. Not as open as Blue on the first pack. Blue is the only color that we're 100% sure is open, so jumping into Blue might not be a bad idea. This green card is not that great, but this green card is decent. Although it doesn't really work with the Molten Fist. I mean, if all fails, playing the Molten Fist on its own without any way to give armor is still fine. This red card is very poor. If I'm playing red-blue, I would take the Targov over the Clan Hero. And there's literally no other card worth taking besides Initiation and Torgoth. Icequake is too expensive, and the effect is far too symmetrical, I think. The 3 damage to the player usually doesn't matter. 3 damage to other units. It's looking like none of my units will survive this, except for this one. I'm not going to pick up 7-drop. I'm definitely going to pick up the Targoth here, I think, and just pop into blue. Seeing how blue was super open. Definitely not taking this for the same reason we didn't take any other Life Force cards, and will not. But Gun Down is a perfectly playable removal spell, and I'll be pretty happy to pick this up in our primary color here. If we're still in green, and these 2 cards is not good enough reason for us to be in green, especially because it's cut so badly on the first pack, and we can expect it to get cut very badly on the third pack. Our black is still splashable. We can still splash the Devious Drone here. Yeah, just gonna take the Gun Down here over. Not much else here I would take. Cobalt Ring I think is a little bit too expensive. It's kind of like the Cryptic Edging, but it's more expensive, and it requires you to have cards to discard first. So that doesn't seem amazing. Let's just take this Gun Down. Definitely don't take anything with a Mentor, by the way. With only 1 pack of Omens, you should avoid all of the highly conditional Omens mechanics, like Life Force and Mentor. Roosting Hour is good, but we're not in green. So the only playable cards for us is the Stranger, pretty much. Or the Swift Stranger or the Alpha. But I think the Stranger is fine. I'm a little low on 2 drops, and this really helps us with color fixing. So let's just go ahead and grab that. Ooh, Rock Slide is not bad. Purify would have been better, but we don't think we can splash a time card. Yep, we've seen no cards that pumps armor, so I'm actually kind of okay leaving green here. Between these 2, I think I'll definitely take the Rock Slide. Ooh, spells do extra damage. Rock Slide and Gun Down. Oh, plus 2 damage. Gun Down can do 7, and Rock Slide can do 3 damage to 2 units. That's pretty gross. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick up this banner and make my fixing perfect. Because after all, I only really have 2 things that go with this. Having a 2/6 blocker in this format is not horrendous, but 6 power for a 2/6 really is too weak without the special ability being active. And because the card that combos with it is a 2-drop and a 5-drop, both of which I'll play before the 6-drop, it's also likely that I would have been forced to use these cards before I draw into this. I'm gonna pick the power here. That's not playable in limited or draft, sorry, unless you end up drafting a whole bunch of the same unit, but I think that's highly unlikely. Another Icequake, eh? Definitely don't want the Hardy Stranger, though. Man, I would really love to pick up at least 1 Strength of Many and 1 Roosting Owl if we were in green, but alas, we're not. Pick up this 5 power 6/3. Ooh, jeez. That's a very good Horu card. Ooh, I think I just pick up the Mortar here over the Clan Hero, even though the Clan Hero is really good in our deck. I think the instant speed 4 damage is just too good. Ooh, another Rock Slide. Jeez. Skycrack is open. Do I want the second Rock Slide? Or now that I picked up so many direct damage spells, I kind of regret not picking up the 2/6. I guess the question is, which one of these cards is best for our deck? Ice Bowl is not quite as amazing if you don't have a bunch of infiltrate targets. units. Or deadly units. We're not going to pick up any deadly units in these colors for sure, but it's possible that we can put this onto things like that, or that to give an additional +1. And it's also possible to pick up, or like this one. Actually, Ice Bowl has a lot of synergies with all of our blue cards. It's also possible to eventually pick up some infiltrate cards in blue in the next coming packs. Whereas this is a pretty decent evasive threat, and I do like finishing. I've said this many times, you do want a bunch of evasive threats to finish off the game, so this is a kind of a game-ending card if you can mentor a Torgov or Pit Fighter, making it a 7-1, or even a Tumblebag, making it a 4-1 is not that bad, or this, making it a 4-1. I'm actually going to go and pick up the Serpent Mount here. Stranger. I'm going to pick up this Blink Wolf. This is basically a free card later on in the game. This is a very good attacker and a terrible blocker. But attacking on the ground with a giant unit isn't amazing if your giant unit doesn't have a bunch of special abilities or is so big that your opponent can't just double or triple block it. It's just so easy to clog up the ground in this format, and this card is so bad if you block. Because as soon as you block, he stuns himself, so he doesn't do damage. He can't even kill your opponent's smaller attacker and then get stunned. No. He gets stunned, and then your opponent's attacker doesn't die. That's really bad. Take a Blink Wolf here. Ooh, third last pick Swindle. That makes me really happy. Oh, and a second last pick Cyclops. That makes me really happy. And that's a perfectly playable 6-drop. Torrent of Spiders force a splash. That's good. Let's see what we have. Frontline Cyclops is okay. It's a 6-power 6/6, so attacks decently well. I don't like the fact that it has Reckless. Reckless is always a liability. Diplomatic Seal is great for a 3-color deck. Suffocate is not a bad splash, but then having a splash card that you kind of want to play early is not always the best. This is surprisingly not a bad splash card. Giving a giant unit unblockable sometimes is quite good. This is an okay 2-drop, but I think I'm okay for 2-drops at the moment. I think it'll be one of these 4 or 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So either 3 of those 5 cards are splash cards. Actually, you could technically consider Diplomatic Seal to be a splash card as well. So 4 out of the 5 cards are splash cards. And the only other splash we want is the Devious Drone. How badly do we want to splash black at this point? We have lots of good playables in our primary colors, but we do also have some good fixing in the Banner and the Stranger, so it's feasible to splash. I think Torrent of Spiders is quite good. I think Torrent of Spiders might be good enough of a splash card. Over the Trickster's Cloak. I don't have too many amazing things to put the cloak onto right now. Over the Suffocate, because I have actually a lot of removal spells. And definitely over this vanilla, well not vanilla, the 6/6 that is most likely going to die after one attack. Yep, I'll take the Torrent of Spiders. Ooh, combo. Oh man, I wish I had... This is a very powerful game finisher in Shadow. It's very hard to block in the air. It's too bad. I don't think I can play a double black card. But I think I'll be pretty happy picking up a Rebel Sharpshooter here or the Katana. One of these 2 cards I think is going to be my pick. And I think because I don't have too many ways to pump the Rebel Sharpshooter, I would rather pick up the Katana. I do have some okay unit to put the Katana onto. The Cyclops has Overwhelm. I have a Flyer. Torgov is very large on the health, so it really helps him attack. And the Jotun here is also pretty high health, which makes it a pretty good attacker at 5/6. Although I have to say I am severely lacking in evasive threats, which is one of the reasons why I would want this card. Or I can pick up the Stone Scar Stranger to help us splash these 2 cards. This is a tough pick. All 3 of these are very good for our deck. I wouldn't consider the Cutthroat because it's a 2-drop, and you wouldn't want to splash 2 drops. So one of these 3 cards. I definitely don't have enough weapons to support this, so let's cut that out. It's going to be between color fixing to help us play Torrent of Spiders, Devious Drone, or just a very good card that replaces itself, which helps with the deck consistency. And even if you don't play this onto a flying threat, just playing onto a random unit helps you block with it. I think I'm going to take up the Katana over the Stranger here. I don't think I'll play with the Warhelm. I don't have enough gunslingers in red that benefits from weapons. Just a one, I think. But that's not good either. That's something I don't want to play. There's nothing here I want. I can splash Haunting Scream, but I don't know about that. Oh, I can Haunting Scream a Targov here. Cyclops. Oh, I can Haunting Scream. Oh, I can Haunting Scream a Devious Drone, which will kill something else. Because it has the Entomb effect. Huh, that's interesting. That is pretty interesting. I don't really want the Warhelm, so ignore that. I'm not going to play a 7-drop that's only a 5/6. Too small. Don't really want to play this 4-drop. Yep, I'm not going to miss any of these cards. I'm going to just pick up the Haunting Screen for potential shenanigans, even though it's a very low chance. Ooh, Staff of Stories is a good card draw spell. Rapid Shot is great. Wisdom of the Elders is great. Wisdom is easier to... because when I play this, I'll draw 2 cards. This has to survive 2 more turns to get the same benefit of Wisdom of the Elders. So if this gets killed, it's much, much worse. You've paid more power, you got no benefit out of it, and you didn't... And it's inferior to Wisdom of the Elders. On average, I would think that the 2 cards are actually going to be on par with one another. I do have a lot of 5-drops already. But I guess this card will always give me 2 cards, and it's very consistent, whereas this card will sometimes give me a ton of cards and win the game. Because you can win, if you have a stalled board state with a bunch of deadly spiders in play, you could run away with the game with this card. I don't have enough weapons to benefit from the Quartermaster, I don't think. Yeah, let's just pick up the Staff of Stories and see where that lands us. Second sight, we have no Echo cards to benefit from this. Flash Freeze is a good card, but we're not all that aggressive. I don't see that being super useful. But that being said, I think the Flash Freeze is still going to be better than the second sight here. I guess the Recalculator is a playable chump blocker at 4. But I already have a lot of good 4s. I don't think I need it. Well, it's unlikely that I'll play either of these cards. Let's just go ahead and pick up this 2/2 that I may or may not play. Well, I don't want to play any of these splash cards, but a Rapid Shot, though, is a pretty good splash. I'll pick up the Rapid Shot over the 5/2 that I'm definitely not going to play. The wrong color land. So there are 0 cards in our primary colors. Let's just go ahead and pick up this random weapon, I suppose. I guess I can pick up a Devour. I get more and more black cards, which I don't want. Ooh, I can definitely splash Smuggler Stash. This is a card. This is a good splash card. Ooh, okay. Happy to see some blue cards. I think between this is super dirtly, but this is also perfect for a format where things just get clocked onto the ground. I already have a bunch of removal spells that are doing small points of damage. I don't know if I need another one. But my 4-drops is getting pretty high, and I have some very high quality 4s. I don't know if I need this thing. This thing's super mediocre. Static Bolt, 2 damage. How much do I care about 2 damage? I have Rock Slide. I have Mortar. I have Gun Down. Alright. I'll grab the card advantage here. Topple Tower? I don't think I have enough Grenadines for this to be great in our deck. Slush Dumper is really good, but I don't have that many Yetis. I have 3. Because this is a Yeti. I have 3 Yetis in my deck. Is that good enough to make this card good? The red card is terrible. This, I think, takes too much work. I don't think I have enough to make this good. I guess this is the card we're going to take. We're not going to pick any of the black cards here. We don't take anything else. Yep, we're just going to end up with the Slush Dumper here and maybe pick up a few more Yetis. We have far too many playable cards, by the way. We can start cutting a lot of the mediocre cards that I'm pretty sure I won't play. Like Pit Fighter, for example, can go. This Ice Knuckle Jolton can definitely go. This Yeti Troublemaker can probably go as well, to be honest. This Random 2/2 doesn't have to be there. The Black Splash doesn't have to be there. This Tumble Bang doesn't have to be there. This Outlaw is kind of mediocre as well. Probably not the Devour and Rapid Shot because they're tricks. Caleb's Intervention that doesn't have to be there. So yeah, we have a lot of cuts. So we can be very selective in the cards that we pick up. We're only going to pick up cards if it's an upgrade. Not enough Dinosaurs to make that work. Not enough Grenadine to make that work. This is just a 2 power, 2 damage most of the time. I think that's good enough. We're not going to play anything else here for sure. So we'll just pick that up in the off chance that we will. Wait, I have fewer red cards than I have black cards at this point. Right? Wait. I have just as many shadow cards than I do have fire cards. I mean, Molten Fist is fine and all, but if I just splash the removal spells in fire, I can have a Felm deck that's not too terrible. This is rough. I actually don't know if my fire is stronger or if my shadow is stronger. Because here I'm picking up either a kind of mediocre fire card or a pretty decent shadow card here. Huh. This is rough. I actually have no idea. So red gives me a couple of very good turn 2 plays. Actually, a bunch of really good turn 2 plays. Whereas shadow gives me, I guess red. I think for curve considerations, fire is still giving me a little bit more. Yeah, that's true. I think for curve considerations, I'll stick with fire. Let's just pick up the Into the Furnace here. Daring Pioneer. 3 powerful, 4 overwhelm is quite good, but your opponent can play just terrible spell and it dies. I like this card a lot. Do I have enough Gunslingers to make this card work? I think the answer is no. I have like no Gunslingers in this deck. I have exactly 1 Gunslinger. 1 Gunslinger. A 3 power 3/2 is not good. This 5-drop is not bad, but I have no Dinosaurs. I also have no Sentinels, so neither of these cards can be used to the fullest potential. But although giving something +1/+1 in Overwhelm is already pretty decent. For example, using that on Torgov. I think I'll just go ahead and pick up this 3 power 4/4 and kind of just hope that my opponent has only good spells so then I can sack it. So that way, you know, when it dies, it's at least countering a very good spell versus just a random bad spell. Definitely not that. Unsealed is a little too conditional for me. I don't love it. I don't like having this in my hand. Waiting for my opponent to do something is a little bit too reactive. I think the Yeti Windflyer is actually pretty proactive. I have picked up a decent number of Yetis. Fearless Yeti. This is a Yeti. This is a Yeti. Yeah, let's just go ahead and pick that. Ooh, lots more Yetis. Where'd that come from? Your spells do +1. Oh, hey, I have a lot of spells that does damage. Yeah, I like this card. Let's pick that. Ooh, more Yetis. Yes, this is working out quite well. I am turning into a Yeti's deck. And oh, this is fantastic. It's very lucky that we pick up a Yeti that we really want in a pack full of cards that we don't want. Wow, all the Yetis in the world. Okay, well, do I want another 3-drop Yeti or do I want this 5-drop here? These 1/4 Yetis don't attack all that well. They block mediocrely well. I already have 2. I don't know if I missed the 3rd one. I think I might be better off using this as a late game surprise +1/+1 overwhelm. But my 5-drops are also quite decent. I have a lot of 5-drops. I'll pick up the 5-drop. It's the only card. This is my first copy of the Stampede Driver, whereas I already have 2 other copies of the Wild Riders. So yeah. Ooh, do I have enough units to play the Snow Fort? No. I definitely take this Bond Yeti Surgeon here. Yeah. Ooh. All right. This deck just went from super mediocre for the entire draft to pretty crazy awesome on the last pack. So I'm super excited about that. We've very quickly turned ourselves into a Yeti's deck. Alright, so let's go into deck construction. No time. Let's ignore the shadow for now. I'll think about whether or not those shadow cards is worth splashing at this point, now that our deck has kind of come together with a lot of Yetis. Our deck is looking very aggressive, so this 2-power removal spell is looking to be a lot better as well. That Temple Bang is looking a lot worse. Let's put it in and see what happens. I'm not a big fan of the Pit Fighter. Pit Fighter is quite good in the last drafting format when you have a bunch of really easy to pick up late Dragon Breaths. Dragon Breath with Pit Fighter allows you to kill pretty much any unit. But in this drafting format, I mean, I didn't see a single Dragon Breath. Oh yes, 3 copies of this, perfect. Ooh, this card deck is looking fantastic. This Slush Dumper is going to be pretty big. Oh hey, these are Yetis too! I didn't even think about that. This is a giant, okay. Wow, I have a Yeti's Lord? This is looking great. Okay, now let's take a look at time and see what it has to offer. Ooh, time gives me Smuggler Stash. Sorry, Shadow gives me Smuggler Stash, which is a phenomenally good card. I think, actually, for the Smuggler Stash alone, it might be worth considering Shadow. Let's just put it in and see where that gets us. I think at this point, I don't need to splash the Devious Drone. I think I just splash a single card in the Smuggler Stash. It's the only card that's got enough raw power to be worth a splash when you have already too many playable cards. Okay, the curve is looking pretty sweet. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 2-power cards, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 of those are units that are pretty aggressive, especially these ones that can fly. So if you can put this on turn 2, turn 3, put our Katana onto it, all of a sudden you have a pretty big army of flying units that is very hard to handle. So I think this is a great 2-drop slot. 3 is good. Temple Bang is going to go away. Yep, lots of Yetis, which are fine. Cyclops is fine. I don't think I need this Recongulator anymore. Serpent Mount is still playable. This is great. This is great. It's not great, but it is a Yeti, and it does give you quote-unquote card advantage as you get 2 units out of the deal. Gun down. Oh, actually, these units become 4/2s, which are... At that point, it's worth it. You get 2 4/2 units, and it's actually not bad. Staff of Stories is fine. Driver's good. Swindle's good. Good blocker. Okay, so this is most likely going to be a 18-powered deck, just because my 5 and 6 is so heavy. The problem with having a really heavy curve that in the 4s and 5s and 6 is that you're always going to be playing 1 card per turn into quite late, and you really don't want to miss your power drop. Playing 1 card a turn sometimes is too slow. if your opponent is pretty fast. Although I'm pretty fast too, so maybe that's not so much a worry. Maybe 17 power is okay. We do have the Katana, which draws us a card. The Fearless Yeti lets us scout. This Warp is essentially drawing us a free card. Targov can potentially let us filter as well. This draws us cards, and this draws us cards. You know what? 17. Well, in this case, then I think more the reason to play 18, because now that I have some very expensive cards that draws me more cards. So if I do end up flooding out a little bit in the early to mid game, I can rely on this sheer card draw and filter to draw me into more gas. So I think in this case, it's better to have 18 power. So we need to cut 2 more cards. I'm going to cut the Stampede Driver. I have no dinosaurs, so I think it's lost some value there. And the last card to cut, I'm not super impressed by Serpent, but I think I'll keep it. It might be this Into the Furnace. It's not fantastic. The things that's going to beat me is not things that have two health, because I have lots of ways of just attacking into them. The things that's going to beat me is something really large that I can't answer. And this will always do 2 damage because I have no Grenadins. This might not be good enough. And also, it's not even a fast spell. This might not be good enough. Yeah, I think it's... Oh, wait. It does 3 damage because of the War Chief. Whatever, it's fine. Alternatively, I can cut one of the Wild Riders because they're not super amazing or anything. But my 3 drops are pretty light. No, this is fine. Let's go ahead and add some power and see what we got. Definitely not. Okay, so I'm gonna have 2 Shadow Sigils because this is a card that I don't want to play into the game is very, very, very late. So having 2 sources might be enough. And then this gives us 10, 11 blue, which I think is too much. So let's go 10 blue. It gives us 8 red. Which I think is enough because very few of my red cards require double, only just this 1 card here. We can actually go back up on the shadow. Gives me 3 shadow for the 1 card, which I think is acceptable. Alright, I'm pretty excited for this deck. It's... I have no idea how good it is, but it looks really fun. It definitely, on paper, it has a lot of things going on. It has a pretty strong built-in Yeti synergy. Ramping out a Sergeant on turn 3, for example, off of a Fearless Yeti is very, very strong. The card filtering is very strong. We have a lot of card draw, which is going to hopefully draw us out of floods and screws, and give us a certain level of consistency in our performance. This card is super powerful when we have enough Yetis in play. We don't have a lot of flying evasive threads, and we also have no way to deal with giant units. So that's our weakness. If we're not able to finish off our opponent in the air, relatively early to mid, maybe beginning of late game. In the late game, we are going to lose because we can't deal with large units. So if our opponent has a whole bunch of 7, 8 overwhelmed Sentinels, we are going to have a really tough time dealing with that. And if our opponent has a bunch of, or even just 1 or 2 giant flyers, we're also not going to beat that. So it is kind of sketchy. Our deck is very fair. There's nothing broken or unfair about it. So we just have to hope that we don't play against opponents that do very unfair things. Someone who goes turn 2 flying unit, turn 3 weapon, turn 4 weapon, turn 5 weapon, 9/9 flying, whatever. We can't beat decks like that. All right, let's see how we perform.